This one is a quick topic, the law of God versus the quote-unquote law of Moses, and maybe I should have mentioned this one in my other quick teaching about the Ten Commandments, but you've got to realize that there would have never been any such distinction as the law of God versus the law of Moses. It is a coincidence that it happened that way. And if you reread all the accounts of the commandments being given, and even there's a testimony of it, even in Hebrews, it talks about what happened. But the people panicked. The people heard, all of them heard the quote unquote 10 commandments. God told Moses to get the people sanctified and to bring them to the mountain so that he could speak to them directly, and that's exactly what he did. And the mountain was burned, and it quaked, and there was thunders and lightning, and the people panicked when they heard the voice of God. And after he spoke the Ten Commandments, they ran to Moses, and they're like, we just crapped our pants, and we're going to die if he continues to speak, so you need to go get the rest of it for us, and we will obey whatever he tells you to do, and you tell us to do. So the people panicked. It wasn't like God gave the Ten Commandments and then Moses, came up with the rest of it on some other time. God himself would have spoke all of his commandments right then and there when all the people were gathered together, but they panicked and they asked Moses to go get the rest of it. So that's why we have this distinction in our minds as, the law of Moses versus the law of God. It is all the same, and it's all summarized by one word, love, or by two categories, love to God or love to man. The 4 commandments, love to God or love to man, and all the law and all the prophets hang on these two. That's where you find things like the dietary instructions. That's where you find things like the Creator's calendar and like seats and that kind of thing. And so I would recommend checking out my other quick video that I made on the Ten Commandments specifically, because, the first thing that people are going to say is, well, you can't keep this anymore, you can't keep that anymore. And I just want to say the lawless one, the Antichrist, has come up with all these winds of doctrines to keep people from the truth and from obeying the commandments. And the Bible says sin is the transgression of the law. That's in the New Testament. That's what sin is. There's perhaps a new way of atonement from sin, but sin is still sin. And Paul says, shall we continue to sin since we are now under grace, so that grace may abound? God forbid. So sin is sin, and we're not to continue to sin. And that word sin in the original Hebrew is Torah, not the Ten Commandments. And the Ten Commandments are part of the Torah, but so is everything else that was ever spoken by God or his Son, or probably, his prophets too. So just wanted to, check out my other video on the Ten Commandments if you want more detail. But that's all for this one. Realize that the distinction that some people now say there's a difference between the law of God and the law of Moses, that is just another level of the lawless one's counterfeit deceptions. It is all God's law, and he would have presented it all had the people not panicked. And you've got to read those stories. Every single time it mentions how the people panicked in the, because Numbers, Exodus, Leviticus, Numbers, Deuteronomy, they're kind of like Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. They're 4 different angles of the same story, and so you'll see how that story is told, and you'll see how all the people heard the Ten Commandments and they panicked. They told Moses, go get the rest of it. And in Hebrews, this is confirmed too. Paul was reiterating the story of how the people panicked. So anyway, realize that, and check out the Ten Commandment video.